The twin suns of Valora 9 hung low in the sky, casting golden light over the endless plains. In the distance, a tall figure moved slowly between rows of purple stalks, harvesting them by hand. Her name was Jara, a Velari woman, but unlike any of her kind, she was massive, almost twice the size of a normal Velari female. Her shoulders were broad, her steps heavy, and her presence, no matter how silent, always felt loud. And that was exactly why she lived alone. Years ago, the scientists of her homeworld had examined her body, her genes, her structure. They declared her unfit. They said she was too large, too different, and worst of all, unable to bear children. The news was not just sad, it was a sentence. In Velari society, females who could not create life were not respected. They were quietly pushed out, forgotten. So Jara was sent to the outer colonies, a peaceful exile on a farming world. No one bothered her here, and that was exactly how the others wanted it. But Jara dreamed of more. At night, she would sit under the stars, hand resting on her belly, wondering what it would feel like to carry a child. She imagined the soft weight, the movement inside her, the heartbeat she could feel without touching. But it always ended the same way, with her waking up alone. That changed the day the humans arrived. A small exploration crew had landed near the southern valley. Their goal was simple: collect samples, test the soil, and map the area. They were not expected to find anyone here. So when Daniel, a young human engineer, followed a broken drone signal into the fields, he didn't expect to meet anyone, especially not someone like Jara. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. He looked up, and up, and up again. Jara stood, still, a bundle of stalks in her arms, watching him with calm eyes. Her skin was pale silver, with soft lines running across her arms like marble veins. Her long hair fell over her back like woven threads of night. Daniel slowly raised his hands, smiling nervously. Hi. Jara tilted her head. You are human, she said, her voice deep and soft like distant thunder. Yeah, Daniel replied, still unsure if he should run or stay. I didn't know anyone lived here. I do, she said simply, then turned to return to her work. Most people would have taken that as a sign to leave. But Daniel didn't. Something about her voice, her loneliness made him stay. I'm Daniel, he said, stepping forward carefully. My drone crashed. I think it landed somewhere near your crops. Jara didn't turn around. Machines do not grow well in my fields. He chuckled. That's fair. After a few silent moments, she pointed toward a cluster of vines near the edge of the farm. Your machine is there. Daniel followed her direction and found the broken drone half covered in soil. As he worked to repair it, he kept glancing at her. She worked quietly, focused, and graceful despite her size. He saw how her hands moved with care. She wasn't just strong. She was gentle, too. He didn't know what to say, but he felt he should say something. This is a beautiful place, he said. Jara finally turned. You are not afraid of me? Should I be? Her eyes met his. Most people are. Daniel shook his head. I work with plasma engines that explode if you breathe wrong. You're not scary. That made her pause. Then, just barely, she smiled. Over the next few days, Daniel kept finding reasons to return. He always had an excuse, checking signal strength, testing the atmosphere, but really he just wanted to talk to her again. Jara didn't push him away. In truth, she was curious too. No one had spoken to her like this in years. Daniel asked questions, not about her size, not about her exile, but about her interests. He asked what plants she liked, what she thought about the stars, what dreams she had. One afternoon, as they sat beneath a tree after a long walk through her fields, Daniel noticed her gaze drifting far. What are you thinking about? He asked. Jara hesitated, then answered. Something I was told I could never have. He leaned closer, careful not to push. You can tell me. She looked down at her hands. My people said I was too large to bear children, that my body would break if I ever tried. that my genes were wrong. Daniel was quiet, not because he didn't know what to say, but because he wanted to choose the right words. They told me I could never create life. She continued. So they sent me here to be forgotten? Daniel finally spoke. They were wrong to do that. Her eyes widened a little, surprised. He nodded. Size doesn't mean you're broken. Maybe they just didn't understand you. No one ever tried to, she said softly. Well, he smiled. Maybe it's time someone did. That night, Daniel returned to the base and accessed the database. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew how to learn fast. He studied Vylari, biology, medical scans, and hybrid compatibility reports. Most were negative, but some hinted at potential, unexplored possibilities. What if human science could help her? What if the problem wasn't Jara's body, but the lack of effort to understand it? Daniel didn't sleep that night. He made notes, ran simulations, and sent quiet queries to off-world contacts. He had no plan yet, but he had hope. And in a galaxy full of silence, that was something loud enough to change a life. Daniel returned the next morning, walking with careful steps through the fields. The air was cool, and the purple plants swayed gently in the wind. He found Jara sitting beneath a wide tree, sharpening one of her old farming tools with a stone. She didn't look surprised to see him. You came back, she said. Daniel smiled. You sound surprised. Jara's eyes stayed on her tool. Most people don't return. Daniel sat down beside her, not too close, just enough to show he wasn't afraid. Well, I'm not most people. That made her smile, just a little. He noticed it, and that small curve of her lips gave him confidence. They spent hours talking that day. Daniel asked about her life before exile. Jara told him stories of her youth, the day she was told she would never become a mother, and how the doctors didn't even look her in the eye when they said it. She remembered how the council's judgment was cold and final. They treated me like a broken object, she said softly, not a person. Daniel listened quietly. I'm sorry, Jara. You didn't deserve that. No, she agreed, but it's done. He looked at her carefully. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Jara turned to him, confused. What do you mean? I've been studying your biology, he said, reaching into his pack and pulling out a small tablet. There are differences between human and Vylari physiology, yes, but not as much as your people think. Your body might be stronger than they ever understood. Maybe you were never the problem. She stared at him, unsure whether to hope or to protect her heart. You think I can become a mother? She asked. I think it's possible, he answered gently. But only if we try. Jara placed the tool down and took a long breath. No one had ever offered her a chance. No one had even considered the idea. She had stopped dreaming years ago just to avoid the pain of false hope. But now, a human, a stranger from another world, was telling her she didn't have to give up. Why are you doing this? She asked, her voice quiet. Daniel smiled. Because I believe no one should be left behind. And because I care about you. Jara blinked. That word, care, was not something she expected. Not from a man. Not from a human. Over the next few days, Daniel worked from an abandoned research outpost just outside the valley. It was dusty, half-broken, and most of the machines were offline. But it had enough power for small experiments. Jara helped him clean it up. She didn't say much, but Daniel saw the change in her eyes. For the first time in years, she moved with purpose, not just to survive, but for something more. They collected samples, ran simulations, and studied her unique cell structure. Daniel used portable scanners and medical drones to gather safe data. Slowly, a picture began to form. Jara's body was not weak. It was powerful. Her cells regenerated faster than normal. Her bones were denser, her heart larger and stronger. But there was a barrier in her reproductive system. Something that prevented fertilization from taking place naturally, a small mutation. possibly from birth. Daniel believed that with the right mix of human regenerative therapy and targeted genetic correction, they might be able to fix it. It won't be easy, he told her, and it won't be quick, but I think we can do it. Shara looked at the glowing scan of her womb on the screen. Is this really me? He nodded. Yes, and it's a body worth saving, worth trusting. She looked at him, eyes soft. You speak to me like I'm not broken. Because you're not. They work together every day. Daniel guided the machines. Jara provided knowledge of her people's medicine and body, rhythms. It was more than science now. It was a partnership. As time passed, their connection grew deeper. When Daniel got frustrated at a failed test, Jara would quietly offer him a drink of herbal water she brewed herself. When Jara felt doubt creeping in, Daniel would sit beside her and speak calmly, reminding her of how far they had come. One night, they sat outside the lab after a long session. The stars stretched across the sky like rivers of light. Jara leaned, back against a rock, her eyes lost in the sky. I never thought I would meet someone like you, she said. Daniel smiled. A handsome genius with excellent drone repair skills? She laughed, a deep and beautiful sound that echoed across the field. No, I mean someone who looked past my size, past the fear. He turned serious. I don't see fear. I see strength and kindness. And someone who deserves everything she was denied. Jara looked at him quietly. Then, with a gentle voice, she asked, Why do you really care? Daniel hesitated, then said, Because you make me feel like I matter. Not as an explorer, not as a scientist, just as a man. That silence between them grew warm. For a few long moments they said nothing, but everything had changed. Back in the lab, Daniel initiated the next stage, designing a treatment using human nanomedicine combined with a carefully crafted enzyme that could correct the block in her womb. It was untested. It had never been tried on anyone before, let alone a Valari. I won't promise it will work, Daniel said, but I promise we will try it together, no matter the result. Jara looked at the injector in his hand, then at him. Her voice trembled slightly. I'm afraid. I'll stay with you, he said. She nodded. Then I am ready. Daniel injected the serum carefully. A soft glow appeared on the monitor as her body accepted the formula. At first, nothing happened. Then her breathing changed. Her heart rate increased slightly. The machines buzzed as her body began to respond. She gripped his hand. He held it tightly. I'm here, he whispered. For the first time in her life, Jara wasn't alone in her pain. She wasn't a failure. She wasn't forgotten. She was something more, someone more. But outside the valley, things were changing. A Velari patrol ship had picked up strange energy readings from the surface, readings that matched banned medical technology. As the ship drew closer, its scanners locked onto the old lab signal. Inside, unaware of the danger, Daniel and Jara stared at the monitor in silence. The impossible was beginning to happen, and someone wasn't happy about it. Jara lay on the padded table inside the lab, her large frame steady but her heart beating a little faster than usual. The machines around her hummed softly. A soft light blinked on the screen next to her. Green, then yellow, then green again. Her body was reacting to the serum, and not rejecting it. Daniel stayed beside her the whole time. He was tired, but he didn't show it. His eyes stayed on the readings, scanning every detail. You're doing great, he said softly. Jara looked at him. What happens next? He checked the monitor. Now, we wait. If your cells begin to adapt, the block in your system should clear in the next few days. That's when we'll know if the treatment really worked. Jara nodded, but her hands were tight around the edges of the table. I don't want to hope too much, she said. Every time I've hoped in the past, it ended with pain. Daniel gently placed his hand over hers. This time you're not doing it alone. She looked into his eyes and gave a small smile. Outside the lab, the winds moved through the valley like whispers. But above, in the cold black sky, something else moved. The Vailari patrol ship hovered just beyond the upper atmosphere, cloaked from local radar. Its crew stared at the strange readings coming from the surface, a mix of human technology and illegal medical signatures. One officer frowned. This area was marked as a low-activity farming zone, he said. Another replied, "Then why is a human using restricted genetic tools down there?" Orders were sent. A small scout craft descended quietly toward the lab. The next day, Daniel woke up early. He had barely slept, but he didn't care. He ran his usual checks: blood pressure, cellular scans, body response, and what he saw made him freeze. Jara's internal system had changed. The biological block was no longer visible. Her body had accepted the correction. Her cells were open, ready. He turned to her, eyes wide. "Jara, it worked." She blinked slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he pointed at the screen. "You can carry life now. You're able to conceive." Jara didn't speak for a moment. Her hands moved slowly over her stomach as she sat up. For so many years, she had been told this would never be possible. She had stopped even imagining it. Tears formed in the corners of her eyes. "Are you sure?" Daniel nodded. "I've checked everything twice. Your body is ready." She breathed deeply, her voice trembling. "Thank you, Daniel." Before he could answer, the lab's power flickered. The screens blinked. Then the alarm flashed red. Daniel turned sharply. "What?" The outside motion sensor showed a dark figure approaching the lab. A second, then a third. He stood quickly. "Jara, someone's here." They both moved to the window. 3 armored Vailari enforcers were walking toward the door. One of them held a scanner. Another had a recording device. The third, the leader, stepped forward and hit the comm switch. "Open this door," a sharp voice said. "You are under investigation for unlawful experimentation." Jara backed away. "They found us." Daniel's mind raced. He looked at Jara, then at the door. He had no weapons, no defense systems, but he wouldn't let them take her. The door opened before he could react. The leader stepped inside, eyes scanning the room. He spotted the monitor first, then Jara, then Daniel. "You are the human," the officer said coldly, "and this is the outcast." "She has a name," Daniel said firmly. "Her name is Jara." The officer ignored him. "You have violated medical laws. Unauthorized genetic treatment on Vailari citizens is strictly banned." Jara stepped forward. "I agreed to the treatment." "You are not allowed to agree," the officer snapped. "You are not recognized by the council." Daniel stepped in front of her. "She deserves that right." The officer motioned, and 2 soldiers stepped forward. "You will come with us, both of you." Jara raised her head high. "You want to punish me for trying to heal, for trying to hope, but I am not afraid anymore." The soldiers moved forward. Daniel stood between them and Jara, arms wide. "Touch her," he said, "and you'll have to go through me." The moment froze. Then the officer spoke again, calmer now. "You will be taken to the capital. The council will decide your punishment." The journey to the Vailari capital was long and silent. Jara sat in the back of the transport ship, chained by thick restraints designed for her size. Daniel sat next to her, also bound. He looked over at her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't think they'd come so soon." She turned her head. "Don't apologize. You gave me something they never could." He gave her a sad smile. "A future?" She nodded. "Hope." When they arrived, crowds stared at them from behind glowing walls. Jara, once forgotten, was now the center of attention. Some looked at her with anger, others with curiosity. Inside the council chambers, a tall platform stood in the center, surrounded by cold metal seats. The 12 members of the council entered, their long robes flowing. The leader, A female elder with sharp eyes spoke first. Jara, once deemed unfit and exiled, now stands accused of participating in an illegal experiment. And the human, Daniel, is accused of using banned technology on our kind. Jara stood proudly. I gave my consent. You are not recognized by this court, the elder said. Your words carry no weight. Then hear mine, Daniel said. His voice echoed in the chamber. Your science failed her. Your society turned her away without ever trying to understand her body. I did what none of you dared to do. I believed in her, the council murmured. The elder raised a hand. Do you have proof that this experiment had any success? Daniel turned toward Jara. She nodded. Then she stepped forward and placed a hand over her belly. The block is gone, she said. My body is whole. I am able to carry life. The room fell silent. The elder signaled the court medic. A scanner was brought forward. Jara stood calmly as the device moved over her body. Then, the medic froze. The screen showed it clearly. Her womb had changed. It was ready. Capable. The elder leaned back in her chair, her voice quiet now. How is this possible? Because she was never broken, Daniel said. You just never looked close enough. One of the younger counselors stood. What if she succeeds? What does this mean for others like her? The room buzzed with questions. For the first time in years, Jara was not invisible. She was not worthless. She was proof. Proof that their old science might be wrong. That hope, mixed with courage, could change everything. As the council called for a recess, Daniel and Jara were escorted to a holding room. But the guards no longer looked at them with disgust. One even offered Jara a bottle of water. Jara turned to Daniel. What happens now? He smiled, tired but proud. Now, we wait again. But this time the whole galaxy might be watching. And somewhere, deep inside Jara's heart, the first spark of new life had already begun. Inside the holding chamber, everything was quiet except for the steady hum of energy walls. Jara sat on a bench made for someone smaller, yet she looked calm. Her hands rested on her lap. Her face was firm, but peaceful. Daniel sat beside her, eyes focused on the door ahead. They're not used to being challenged, he said. They've ruled without question for generations, Jara replied. No one dares to tell them they're wrong. Daniel looked at her, admiring her strength. But you did, and now they're listening, whether they want to or not. Jara gave a slow nod. Because for the first time, they cannot deny what's real. Just then the door hissed open. A young council assistant stepped in. He looked nervous but respectful. The council will speak with you again. Please follow me. Daniel and Jara exchanged a glance and stood. As they walked through the tall halls of silver stone and glowing light, whispers followed them. Guards, workers, even council members. They all turned to look. They weren't staring in fear anymore. They were staring in wonder. Inside the main chamber, the 12 council members had returned. This time the room was filled with observers. Scientists, leaders, scholars, and young Velari students. The case of the outcast Giantess had spread across the system in just a day. Everyone wanted to know the truth. Jara and Daniel were led to the center again. A tall medic stood nearby, holding a tablet filled with results. The elder counselor, the same one who had spoken sharply before, stood slowly. We have studied the scans. There is no doubt Jara's body has changed. Her reproductive system is no longer blocked. She is capable of carrying life. Gasps filled the room. Even the younger counselors sat back in surprise. But this raises a question, the elder continued. If we were wrong about her, how many others have we abandoned? Silence followed. Then a deep voice spoke from the side. An old counselor who had not spoken much before now stood. Perhaps it is time we accept something painful, he said. That science without compassion can become blindness. That the rules we followed may have harmed those we claimed to protect. He turned to Jara. You were told you were a mistake, but you may be a new beginning. Jara held her head high. I never asked to be special. I only wanted a chance. Daniel stepped forward, and she took that chance. She faced pain and fear and still chose to hope. That's what makes her strong. A young scientist from... The audience stood. If this treatment worked on her, can it help others too? There are many Vylari women with similar conditions, the council murmured. The question was dangerous, but important. The elder counselor looked at Daniel. Would you be willing to share your process, your research? Daniel nodded. Of course. This was never about power or fame. It was about giving Jara what she deserved, what many others deserve too. The elder stepped down from the platform and approached them. Her eyes met Jara's with something close to respect. We judged you wrongly, she said. For that I apologize. Your exile is lifted. You are free. And more than that, you are now part of something greater. Jara's heart beat faster. Her hands trembled slightly. The words she had never thought she'd hear were now real. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Daniel smiled beside her. Then don't say anything. Just live it. After the session ended, they were taken to a peaceful residence near the Capitol Gardens. It was quiet, clean, and safe, a place to rest. Jara stood at the window, watching the sky. Daniel sat nearby, sipping warm herbal tea. This feels strange, she said softly, being treated like a person again. You were always a person, Daniel said. They just forgot how to see it. She looked at him. You never forgot. Daniel chuckled. It's hard to forget someone who saves your drone and your heart. Jara blushed slightly, a soft color across her cheeks. She stepped closer, her large hand resting on his shoulder. I feel something new, she said. Something inside me. Calm, but powerful. Daniel set his cup down. Then let's check. They returned to the medical wing. The same medic who had scanned her before ran another test, this time more carefully. After a long pause, he turned to Jara with wide eyes. There is a signal, he said. Jara blinked. A signal? The medic smiled. A new life is forming. Daniel froze. Are you saying... Yes. You're pregnant. Jara sat down slowly, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her hands instinctively moved to her belly. Daniel sat beside her, speechless. I thought I would never feel this, she whispered. Daniel gently took her hand. And now, you will. Tears rolled down her face, not of pain or fear, but of joy. For the first time, Jara was not alone. She was not broken. She was a mother. The news spread quickly. Across the Vylari systems and even to human colonies, messages flew. Outcast female becomes first cross-species pregnancy success. Human medicine sparks medical revolution among Vylari. Jara of Valora, the woman who changed everything. Leaders, scientists, and ordinary people sent messages of support and curiosity. But not all were happy. A few traditionalists argued that this was unnatural, that boundaries between species should stay firm. The council held emergency meetings to calm tensions, but the truth was stronger than fear. Jara's baby was real, and no one could erase that. In the weeks that followed, Jara and Daniel stayed close. They walked through the gardens in the morning. They met scientists who came to ask questions, and mothers who once thought they'd never have hope again. Jara became a symbol, not of rebellion, but of possibility. One evening, as the suns began to set, Daniel brought a small wooden box to their room. He handed it to Jara with a smile. What is this? She asked. He opened it slowly. Inside was a necklace. Simple, elegant, with a small stone from Earth. I brought this with me when I left Earth, Daniel said. It belonged to my mother. She wore it when she carried me. Jara touched it gently. It's beautiful. He looked at her, voice soft. And now I want you to have it. Because you're the bravest person I've ever met. And the strongest. Jara's hands trembled as she lifted it. Are you sure? He nodded. You're going to be an amazing mother, and I want this child to know how loved they are, even before they arrive. Jara hugged him, her arms wrapping around him with care. Thank you, Daniel, for everything. He rested his head against her. We did this together. And in that quiet moment, two very different people, once strangers from different stars, stood, united by hope, love, and a future no one else believed in. The morning light filtered softly through the large windows of the garden home where Jara and Daniel now lived. Outside, colorful flowers bloomed, and the soft hum of Vailari birds filled the air. Inside, quiet anticipation hung in the room, like a gentle breeze. Jara sat in a comfortable chair, her large hands resting carefully on her rounded belly. She breathed slowly, feeling the tiny movements within her, life growing stronger with every passing day. Daniel stood nearby, studying data on a portable screen, but his eyes often drifted toward her. Are you nervous? Daniel asked quietly. Jara smiled, a little but mostly hopeful. I never thought this day would come. Daniel set the screen down and walked over. You've come so far. You've shown them all that hope is stronger than fear. She looked up at him. It's because you never gave up on me. You saw something worth saving. Daniel shook his head gently. No, you saved yourself. I only helped. News of Jara's pregnancy had spread across the Vailari worlds and beyond. Messages of support arrived from humans and aliens alike. The story of the outcast giantess, who had been given the gift of motherhood, touched many hearts. Scientists wanted to learn from her. Families reached out, hoping for similar cures. Even the Vailari Council declared the beginning of new medical research projects, inspired by Jara's courage. Yet, despite the excitement, there were challenges. Traditionalists still questioned the union of human and Vailari. They worried about the future of their species and the meaning of their culture. Some whispered in dark corners that Jara's child would never be truly Vailari, but Jara and Daniel refused to listen. They were building something new, something better. One day, as the twin suns set in a sky painted with soft pinks and blues, Daniel took Jara's hand and led her outside. The garden was quiet except for the gentle rustle of leaves. I have a surprise, he said. Jara raised an eyebrow. What kind? He smiled and reached into his bag. I wanted to give you something to remember this journey by. He pulled out a small seed pod, round, smooth, and glowing faintly with a soft blue light. This is a seed from Earth, Daniel explained. It grows a tree called the Hope Tree. It's special because it blooms only when cared for, with love and patience. Jara took the seed gently. Like us? Exactly, Daniel said. I want us to plant it together, to watch it grow, just like our family. With care, they planted the seed in the soft soil near the edge of the garden. As they covered it with earth, Jara whispered, May this tree carry our dreams. Days turned into weeks, and the garden began to change. Jara's belly grew rounder and she felt the baby move more and more each day. The small hope tree sprouted tender green leaves, reaching toward the light. It was a sign, a promise, that life continued, no matter how hard the journey. Daniel and Jara spent their evenings talking about the future. They dreamed of a world where their child could live without fear or judgment. A world where humans and Vailari could learn from each other, grow together, and build peace. One evening, Jara looked up at Daniel and said softly, Do you think our child will be like me? Like Vailari? Or like you? Daniel smiled. I think they will be the best of both worlds, strong, kind, and full of hope. Jara nodded, tears shining in her eyes. I want them to know love, to never feel alone. You won't be alone, Daniel promised. Neither will they. The day finally came. Jara's labor was long and difficult, but filled with quiet strength. Daniel held her hand, whispering encouragement. The medical team watched closely, prepared for any problem. Hours passed. Then a cry, a clear, strong sound, broke the silence. A baby. A beautiful child with soft silver skin like Jara's and bright eyes full of curiosity and warmth. The room, filled with awe and joy. Jara smiled through tears as she held the baby close. Daniel looked on, pride shining in his eyes. "This is our future," Daniel said softly. Jara nodded. "And it's full of hope." In the weeks that followed, Jara and Daniel introduced their child to the world. The baby, named Kale, became a symbol of unity and new beginnings. Leaders from many worlds came to visit. Scientists asked questions. Families shared stories. Jara's strength inspired many who had once felt forgotten. Daniel's kindness showed the power of compassion. Together they had changed not only their own lives but the future of many. One evening, as the sun set over the garden, Jara sat with Kale on her lap. Daniel stood nearby, watching the stars begin to shine. Jara looked up and smiled. "We did it." Daniel nodded. "We did. Because we believed. Because we cared." Kyle cooed softly, reaching for her face. Jara kissed the baby's forehead. "You are the gift we both needed." Daniel took her hand. "And you gave us the greatest gift of all." As the stars sparkled above, a new story began, one of hope, love, and the unbreakable bond between two worlds.